So words of wisdom for today. Life is a waste of time, and time is a waste of life, so get wasted all of the time and have the time of your life. You got that? And now for next week's presentation, which is Richard Deal, Are You Who You Think You Are? An overview of personality styles. Various therapists and teachers question if who we are is fully authentic, or rather that personality is rather a compensation for perceived childhood stresses. This fast-paced, data-dense talk will cover several models of personality types. As Alfred Korzybski, creator of the discipline of general semantics, stated, the map is not the territory. The word, our self-story, is never a complete map. Therefore, the more maps of reality we can understand and incorporate, the more accurate and complete is our understanding of ourselves. So come with an open mind and curiosity to know yourself better. Now, Richard Deal, PhD, MED, LSE, was a faculty member at State University of New York. His classes included psychophysical systems. He's also a retired traditional naturopath, acupuncturist, and an international neuro-linguistic programmer trainer, and more. Okay, so don't miss next week. Now, this week we're very honored to have the annual State of the Lake by Todd Stong, and note, as I say, this presentation will conclude at noon. Dr. Stong is going to give a multipoint update of the lake and the village with the water conditions, the lake's natural protections based on the past 50 years data. Dr. Todd Stong's 27 years in humanitarian service have focused on water-related projects in rural Africa, Asia, and Latin America. As a West Point graduate, Colonel Stong served as a construction engineer for 15 years in Korea, Vietnam, and Germany, followed by 15 years directing research in federal laboratories, and he has 6 engineer sons. Please give a warm, open, circle welcome to
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'll grab my notes here, but I'll just start talking anyway. And let me just see where I am here. I want to make sure I don't forget that I need to appeal again to the women here to consider volunteering a husband, or 2 or 3 or 4. I have, later in the presentation, I'm going to talk about 9 topics of things that I find of great interest that would benefit the 320,000 people around the lake. And so I have about 30 sheets of paper which indicate what the 9 topics are, and you can drag your husband up here, force him to pick one of those, and then let me know, okay? Appreciate that. Otherwise, I'm going to talk about the lake itself, okay? But this year I'm going to do something different. It seems that probably maybe 80% of the people here have been here before, and in order to know if they were sleeping before or they never learned anything before, I'm going to ask them to tell us the answers to the questions I'm going to ask about the lake, okay? And we'll see what happens. I want to talk about the people because I normally am focused on the lake itself, but I work in 43 villages around the lake in 6 counties, okay? And this is year number 20 for me, and so I think it's important for you to understand something about their lives, okay? That kind of thing. I then will go on to, I want to talk about the failing pipeline for the water to Guadalajara, which is the major project on my mind right now for the 3 million people to get water out of the lake. And then I'll pull together at the end the list of my 9 things that I think would be worthwhile for some volunteered husband to partner with me, okay? I can show you what we do. I can put you in the car, and we can drive off to whatever we're going to do, and we can do it. But I'm not going to last forever, okay? And I have a deep feeling that I need to have some of the things that I'm working on have a future, okay? I'm now 82, you know, okay? But anyway, so long ago when I was in the military academy, I was a boxer, okay? And so my job was to knock people down. Okay. Let me, and before I do anything, I know some people come here and want to see if I'll drink that nasty water out of the lake. And so the first thing I'll do is I'll prepare that water. And the important thing about it is that what I'm going to share with you, if you haven't seen it before, is that you can go anywhere in the world and you can be able to drink the water if you do what I do here, okay? All right? When water is contaminated with bacteria, we can get rid of that reasonably well, okay? And that's the main thing, okay, for us. When the water is contaminated with minerals, the specifications we put on minerals are based on so many parts per million or parts per billion, based on you drinking 2 quarts of that water for 70 years. So what I'm saying is, if you happen to drink some water that's a little heavy in copper or lead or even arsenic, it's not going to hurt you, okay? I mean, we have kidneys, we have a liver that can handle a lot of these things up to a certain level. So bacteria is the main thing we're concerned about, okay? 1 gallon bottle of Clorox, 1 bottle, $2, okay, can make drinkable 26,000 gallons of clear water. Wow. 26,000 gallons, okay? And so that's important to know. If I had a box of sand, 1 foot square, you know, it's 7 foot high, okay? I call it a slow sand filter, and I have a valve at the bottom that lets the water only go down 6 inches an hour. I can produce 100 gallons of drinking water per day from rivers, lakes, reservoirs, things like that. 100 gallons a day, maybe 1 square foot box, like that. Okay. So anyway, let me get to the here. This is what takes the particles out, okay? My t-shirt, or my ugly t-shirt. This is to show you how clear the water is once you're out about 200 feet, okay? Can you see this?
Yes.
Right? I think it looks pretty good, okay?
Yes.
Now, I had a friend go down to the lake to get some other water here for him, and you'll see here, it looks a bit more yellow, okay? If they got it close to the shore, it would have a lot of mud in it also, okay? All right? When the waves come in, a wave is a circular mechanism, okay? And so you see the top of the wave, and if it's 2 foot high, the other part is 2 foot underneath, okay? And so if it reaches the ground, it starts to stir it up, okay? So as soon as a 2 foot wave gets the water that's 2 foot deep, you're starting to stir up the mud. And most of you people don't go in the lake, okay? And so that's my job, okay? And it's a job for a volunteer if I get one to take water samples, okay? And so it's been a good time, but one side, when I was on the far side, I was sharing with somebody today, asked me about snakes, okay? And 4 years ago, I was on the far side of the lake, and near San Cristobal, okay? And I'm out in the lake about 50 foot, and the water's up about here. And I look over there, about where that gentleman is, in the gray shirt, and I saw this snake, okay? It wasn't a common snake, it was about this thick. And it was about 30 foot long. And he was looking at me, you know? And I said, you know, have a good day. I just left then. But the biggest problem I have in the lake in getting samples is mud, okay? Sometimes I go in the lake and I leave my shoes there. They get pulled off in the mud. And so my wife or somebody else goes with me, and I have a GPS, and so we indicate the location with the GPS, and then she indicates where to find my body, you know, if I don't come out of the lake. Okay, so the first thing to do is to get the particles out of the water, okay? The particles have 95% of the bacteria, okay? And so I'm just going to take this here, and I'm just going to push this shirt down in here a bit like this. And I'm going to pour water to take out any particles. And you can see there's not many particles in this one, okay? So I'm pretty happy with that. Now, you could do a bucket of sand, okay? And so you run water through the sand until it becomes clear, and then after that point, you can use the bucket of sand to filter your water. A bucket of sand. Let's see, I think I have enough in there. Okay. So, step one, get the particles out. You can get a lot of particles out just by sitting the water bottle somewhere for 3 days. And a lot of it will settle down, okay? And so, in normal water purification, we usually have a small lake. We bring the water in there, we let it sit for 3 days, and then we take it to the water filtering area. We don't put it directly in the filter. If I don't have that luxury, I use a roughing filter. I run water in to the bottom of the filter and run it up through the filter, and the dirt sticks on the bottom of the sand and rock, and then every once in a while I pull the plug, and it all automatically flushes out. And that way I get rid of the big stuff. And so after it's going through that filter, I then run it over to the sand filter, where it then goes down slowly 6 inches per hour. Works anywhere in the world. Frankfurt, Germany uses that system. London, England uses that system for water. Okay? And if I have again, a filter of 1 foot square, 100 gallons per day of drinking water. Okay? Okay. So anyway, so here are, and let's say it didn't even overflow, okay? All right. So now, for each quart or liter, and today I brought along a real bona fide, I swear, bottle of Clorox, okay? Because some people have been thinking I've been faking, you know? And then, because they said I was putting, you know, just my finger in there. But that's Clorox. All right. And so anyway, I put my finger in, and I coat my finger, these two joints on my finger, and I then wash it off in the water, okay? And I then need to let it set for 15 minutes, okay? And what did I do with the lid somewhere? So later in this presentation, remind me I need to drink that water, okay? All right, good. All right. Okay, here I am. Again, I'm going to ask questions, and I'm going to hope that answers come out of the audience as to conditions of the lake, okay? Like I say, this is my 20th year. Where does most of the water come from that fills the lake? The Lerma River, okay? 80% of the water comes from the Lerma River. It's 400 miles long. It goes through 3 other states before it gets here, okay? How does the water leave the lake? Evaporation is the #1 loss. About 1.5 meters, about 5 foot of water evaporates off the lake per year, okay? 5 foot of water. About that much each year gets pumped out to Guadalajara. So local politicians to get elected tell the people Guadalajara is drinking all the water. Okay? But the truth is, only not that much of the water is needed for 3 million people. Okay? All right. And there's a pumping station down here at San Nicolas, and the pipeline then runs 25 miles north to Guadalajara. Okay? There's another pump station that nobody knows about, okay? Or claims to know about. In 1938, when they used to use the Santiago River to generate electrical power, the flow was getting low, and so they built a pumping station in Ocotlán to pump water into the Santiago River if the water was low to keep making electricity. And since then, Guadalajara's got another source of electricity. But anyway, that pump station is still pumping, okay? And why? Because politically, to get the vote from the farmers along the Santiago River, they pump as much water there every day as they pump to the 3 million people in Guadalajara. But they don't tell anybody, okay? All right. Let me see if I had anything else here. Yeah, that pumping station is down by Ocotlán, if you know where Ocotlán is. How many years has the lake been full? Or how many years has it not been full? For how many years has the lake not been filled up? 30 years, gone once. Got another bid? 30 gone once, gone twice? 44 years. 44 years. So water is coming in, and if it doesn't evaporate out, it doesn't get out, okay? If it comes on in, it may bring other kinds of pollutants, particularly industrial pollutants, things like that. And so my major project, you know, if I was lived to be 150, would be to flush out the lake. Okay? You know, when Fred Flintstone was here with Wilma and Dino, you know, the lake used to flush itself out every year and a half because the full flow of the Lerma River was coming through the lake, okay? And it would turn over the water and flush it out. But now we have a lake that's 44 years that nothing has gone out, okay? And so I communicated with the past governor, Aristotle Sandoval, about 6, 7, 8 years ago, and I said, you know, sir, you have the political power to speak to your other governors upriver to let enough water come into the lake to keep it at least 35 or 40% full. Because I determined when the lake is 35 or 40% full, the pollutants that are in it are at a low enough level, concentration, that they're okay for the purification system in Guadalajara to make the water usable, okay? And so that's happened like that. What are the natural blessings that protect the lake? What kinds of things are about this lake make it possible to sort of treat itself, fix itself? What's that? The water hyacinths, yes, they can take out heavy metals, okay, and make it part of the plant. That's possible. Hadn't thought about that because it's a pretty small amount. What else happens? All right, the lake has constant waves. The wind on the lake has all 360 directions during the day, right? Most of it, and so we're whipping up the waves, okay? When we whip up the waves, we add oxygen, okay? Oxygen is the most important thing to get rid of organic pollutants, okay? It's the most important things for fish to live, okay? You know, if you're a fish, the lake right now has about 7, 8, or 9 parts per million dissolved oxygen. The fish love this lake, okay, because of oxygen. When it gets down to 3, you know, they begin to die. And so oxygen is very, very important. So that's another part. Another part about the lake is that if some of these heavy metals come in the lake from the river, they like to be in an acid environment to be able to go from the solid little piece of rock into some liquid, you know, arsenic or something like that in the water. But the lake is not acid at all, okay? You know, it's more than 100 times more alkaline, okay? It has a pH of around 8 to 9, the lake does, okay? So this water here, you know, would be great water to drink just because it has a high pH, like that. So that protection is there. Okay. What are the major pollutants to the lake? What is the source of pollutants to the lake? Agriculture, we have a lot of fertilizer and pesticides, okay? And watch it. Somebody here was speaking earlier.
Volcanic?
No, we don't have a volcanic pollution. All your volcanic material is solid, okay? We have pollution from sewage, okay? We have 15 wastewater treatment plants around the lake, and they do a rather good job, but every year they seem to fail about 1 or 2 months, okay? And then we see people, as somebody mentioned here today, about you go by some streets and you smell sewage because there's sewage coming down the hill through the Ahiek and it gets to the bottom near the lake and maybe it fills up the manhole, okay? They call it registro, and maybe it overflows, okay? I have a lot of problem like that in San Juan Costa along the lake. So sewage is another one, okay? So we had the agriculture, I mean, we had the sewage. Where was I at? I had in my mind, why can't I think? Okay. So anyway, the sewage is basically bacteria, okay? The heavy metals and fertilizer, they're chemical elements. All right, what type of level of pollutants in the fish are in the fish that are in the lake?
Mercury. Mercury.
All right. Mercury is the main concern. Okay, main concern. Okay. The good news is that I had federal funding for the biggest test of lake water in the world about, I think, 5 or 6 years ago, where I tested 220 fish from the lake in 20 locations. It wasn't random. We kept going to the same GPS location every day fishing until we got 10 fish. Okay, and then 10 here and 10 there, and so we have data at 10 different spots in the lake. And so what I found was that the amount of mercury in the fish was almost identical to the level we have in a can of American tuna fish. So it's not a problem, okay? But there are people that talk about things that even if they were 1/1,000,000th, 1/1,000,000th, they talk about it being polluted, okay? But God has made your body that it can take care of certain things, okay? And so you can't take everything out of the water, and if you did take everything out of the water wouldn't be good for you, all right? I mean, there are things in the water we'd like to have, like potassium and calcium and things like that. Okay. Is the lake water safe to drink? Once the particles are taken out and the bacteria is killed. And the answer is, I expect to be alive tomorrow, okay? All right, good. All right. Is the lake safe for full body recreation? Splashing, swimming, canoeing, is it safe, okay? All right. This is a matter of bacteria, okay? The lake, in general, is 4 times cleaner than the average California beach when I measure bacteria, okay? Indeed, when there's a failed wastewater treatment plant, and I always take the samples downstream from the wastewater treatment plant, then that bacteria has to be taken care of. We have a problem here with the 3-year government. The first year, the first row here is elected to be the officials to take care of you. And the first year, they're looking for where's the money, because they don't know anything about it. And then number 2, I don't have any qualifications for this job, so I got to learn something too, okay? And so that's year number 1. Year number 2, is they start doing some work. All right, they got some money somewhere, and they start doing some work. Year number 3 is they're trying to put what money is left in their pocket. Right? Those are the 3-year cycle of government here. Okay, I know I got to put it on it. Okay. In what directions are the lake currents? There are currents in the lake, the water is moving in different directions. What do we know about the currents in the lake? On the north and the south shore both, the water is going from the east to the west. Okay? It's moving that way. And so if I'm going to check water, anytime I think there's pollution, I go downstream from where the pollution might be. Okay? Like that. It then gets down to the end of the lake to Cotepec, and like a Rock Azul out there, and turns around and it comes back down the lake and down the middle, going from west to east. Those are the currents in the lake. So how do I find that out? I get a big water bottle and I fill it with sand and gravel until it's ready to sink. And then I get it down where it's just ready to sink, and then I put a rope on it up to a gallon jug and let the bottle sink down 10 foot. And then I'll watch my jug on the surface move, okay? As the current is pushing the big bottle whatever way, okay? And so I take a GPS reading and I time it and I figure out how many feet per minute it might be going. Okay. Okay, insights as to the people. Okay, as I said, we have, in this state, Jalisco, we have 6 counties here, and then there's 3 counties over in the corner that are part of Michoacan, okay? There's about 43, 44, 45 villages, 330,000 people. The leaders in the villages, there's 2 leaders in every village. There's what we call the delegado, the mayor, you might say, and he's responsible for the built-up area in the village, where the roads and streets are in building, okay? And then we have the president of the ejido. The ejido is the common land. And so there are 2 people in the village that you need to work with, okay? The president of the ejido, who's going to have power over the land around the village, and the delegado, the land inside. The people in the government generally don't have skills, okay? The federal government pays good salary for people at the federal level to dream and propose lots of great things, okay? The government has money for the state level to pay real people, real engineers, real chemists, and other people to, again, plan, dream, and propose, okay? And then who has to execute it? The county has to execute, okay? They do not have skills, okay? That is the biggest problem here in Mexico. This county here, for a number of years, the chief of water for this county, for 50,000 people, okay? His qualification was that he operated a liquor store, right? He didn't know anything about pumps, he didn't know anything about pipe size, he didn't know anything about, elevation storage tanks or anything like that. In the next county over, the public works director, okay? He's responsible for roads and bridges and buildings and sewers and all this kind of stuff, okay? His qualification was he worked for the county president who ran a candy factory, and he fixed the candy machines. And so that's the kind of people. I have only seen one engineer in a county in my 20 years, okay? And he had just gotten out of jail from robbing money from the last administration he was in. So the county level responsible for executing things is poorly equipped, okay? All right. The governments turn over every 3 years, okay? So these 3 people here who know what's going on, their records get dumped in the dumpster. When new people come in, they dump them, okay? There's no transition from that government to this government. And this government coming in will want to badmouth that government that was there and tell them why they're better. But in 3 years, they're going too. And so we're turning over a government every 3 years without any knowledge that is long-term. In the villages, they don't have much in the way of medicine. Okay, medicine. They don't have a pharmacy Guadalajara. They don't have anything like that. I'm going to talk later about, I would like to do some micro pharmacies, okay? Little pharmacies that are 3 foot by 3 foot, run by some lady in town who has 15 medications, over-the-counter medications, from it that treat 15 ailments, okay? Constipation, diarrhea, pain, and nausea, things like that. So I'd like to see somebody help me begin a program of making micro pharmacies in little villages. Doctors. Doctors only go where their money is, okay? And you don't find doctors, in the villages. You don't find them really that much in the county. And so they have health clinics, and sometimes the person that's there is called a doctor is actually a student who's still in university learning medicine, and he comes there and takes care of things. But it's very difficult to get to a doctor. Transportation is too costly for a family with 5 children or something like that to go take a bus to Guadalajara and get to somebody and maybe be there for some time. Okay. The people, Mexico, labor-wise, is about 1/8 of the charge we have in the USA for something, 1/8, okay? Most of the people along the lake here and who have a job are making $8 to $10 per day. The highest paid people are the maids. Okay? My wife is upsetting the national economy here, by her care of our maid. Okay? And I think a lot of you do the same thing, okay? Because you know that person is poor, you know they need bus fare, you know they have children, they need this and that. And so the maids get paid more than the carpenters and the plumbers and the masons and all that. Families, when I look at a county, I look at 5 persons in a family. 2 parents and 3 children. And that's normal. We have this feeling sometimes that Mexican families are very large, okay? That's in the past. And so they're now down to about 3 children. One of the biggest problems that I see in the village is children go to a primary. There's a primary in every village, okay? All right. One problem with that is the teachers, which are headed up by a very strong union with, I think it's 11 million people are in the teaching business. And so when politicians are running for election, they want to satisfy the teachers union. In many villages, the attendance of the teacher is higher than the attendance of the students. And so it's not uncommon for me to go to the school and 2 days a week there's no teacher. Okay? So you can imagine children coming. And so the school will then try to maybe bunch some classes together or have somebody who go in there and talk to them. The children go to the primary in the local village. The secundario, the junior high school, and the prepa, the high school, is usually located in the county town, the center county town with 25,000 people. How do they get there? Transportation is a problem for the poor. And so they can't afford the bus every day to go both ways, and maybe they don't have people in town who have a Volkswagen bus or something, and so that's a problem. Okay. Where am I at here? Oh, good. What do the poor wish the most? What do you think the poor want the most? What do the poor want the most?
Healthcare.
Water.
A little louder, please. Healthcare? Okay, what's the idea?
Good water.
Education.
Okay, they want a job. They want to have an income where they'll have something coming in tomorrow and next week and next month. Okay? I mean, donations and handouts come every second moon maybe, okay? And they don't want handouts. They want a job, okay? So anyway, I have ideas for jobs, and I think I might talk about it here. Where am I at here? Oh, yeah, up at the top here. The second thing the families want is